This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and today we're going to look at the Nokia Lumia 830. This is the AT&T model, not the international unlocked version. It's available on AT&T for $99 on contract for $50 full retail, and it's something like the Nokia Lumia Icon with the polycarbonate metal look, but something more affordable at the same time. We're going to look at it now. So this is the Nokia Lumia 830. Again, this is the AT&T version, not wildly different from the overseas 830, and it is running the latest version of Windows Phone 8.1. And as you can see here, it is the Lumia Denim release. So you don't get all the possible goodies here. Cortana is not always on and listening to you, for example, and that probably has to do with the horsepower inside and maybe the RAM. More so, I think, the CPU power. So this looks a lot like the Lumia Icon, doesn't it? And the idea was to make it a more affordable icon known as the Lumia 930 to you folks overseas. We only got it on Verizon Wireless as the Icon in the US. Similar design right here. Both of these have the aluminum sides, very squared off design. Icon is a bit bigger, and you have the same kind of matte black finish on the back, that whole polycarbonate thing going on. But in this case, instead of the Snapdragon 801, we've got the Snapdragon 400. It is the quad-core version, and it's clocked at 1.2 gigahertz with Adreno 305 graphics. Good news is there's a gig of RAM inside, not 512 megs, so it can play games decently. And there's 16 gigs of storage. Unlike some more budget-oriented Windows phones that have only 8 gigs of storage, you got enough room to put a couple of games. And something that's interesting and different from the Icon is the removable back on this guy. It looks really sealed on, doesn't it? But there's actually a grab point here, and it's pretty easy to take this back off. That's what it looks like right there. 2200 milliamp removable battery, nano SIM card slot over here, so you don't need a little pokey tool to get it out. And there is a microSD card slot compatible with cards up to 128 gigs, so you can expand storage. The speaker is under this little protective cloth right here. And it's a little tinny sounding. It sounds like a phone speaker. It's nothing to write home about there. And there's our big disc for the camera, really to show it off visually more than anything else, because the little lens is nested right in there. It is a 10 megapixel camera with a Zeiss lens, so it's actually pretty good. We'll get into the camera a bit later, and there's an LED flash right there. The front camera, by the way, is 0.9 megapixels, not even a megapixel in resolution and capacity. Well, you know, it's good enough for quick video chat, but it's not something that's going to really set you on fire with wonderful quality selfies. But then again, this is meant to be a mid-range phone, so I guess we can only spec so much. Now, in pecking order here, we have our Lumia 830. This is the Lumia 735. You get the fun, zingy colors here. It's kind of nice. It's also shiny, plasticky finish, so it's going to show a little bit of fingerprint oil, but not bad. And this kind of design, now this has a AMOLED display, so actually, even though this is the lower end phone, it's a bit more rich and vibrant looking than the IPS LCD. Now this is a matter of personal preference. Some people love AMOLED displays, and that's part of the Nokia higher end Lumia experience for them. Other folks prefer the trueness of IPS. That is up to you. One thing I will say is the back is removable on this guy, and believe it or not, you wouldn't guess it from looking at it. You actually pull the whole thing, edge and everything off this. So the 830 is a dream compared to this one. And then we have the real budget 530 model right here, which I have to say it looks like a real budget phone. Also, good news here, and just like the Lumia Icon and the 930, we got our volume rocker right here. We're not that excited about that. Of course, you have a volume rocker, power button, and a dedicated camera button. So you can launch the camera by pressing and holding that, and you can use it as your shutter button for a more, well, camera-like experience, and it's a good way to induce less movement. This does have optical image stabilization, which is nice to see, and something that is priced as more of a mid-range phone. Inside there's a quad-core Snapdragon 400, like I said, Adreno 305 graphics, a gig of RAM, 16 gigs of storage. So that puts it kind of, you know, mid-pack, mid-range among not just Microsoft Windows phones, but also among Android phones. Obviously, this would compete with other affordable phones like the Moto G, particularly the first generation with LTE, since this does have LTE 4G. I think most people in the US are not ready to give up their LTE for nothing, so that's an important factor to keep in mind. Being 99 on contract, it also is competing with the Moto X 2014 and even the Lumia 1020. Old as that is, it's still a wildly capable camera phone, and that one's about $49 on AT&T if you can still find it with contract. So there's a lot of competition that this guy faces, and I think mostly it's going to be those who are really particularly into Windows Phone that are going to consider this over some of the, well, wildly almost bargain priced Android phones right now that you can find in that price range. And for those of you who say, well, the Lumia 1020 is great, been there, done that, or I want something a bit newer. This is a 5-inch 720p display, 1280 by 720, which is an okay resolution, 296 ppi, so that's nothing to be too ashamed of either. There's a little curve to the glass right here, so it's a fairly classy looking phone. It doesn't say, whoa, look at me, I'm a budget phone. By any means, no, it looks like a nice piece of kit. Honestly, it's fast, it's fluid. Windows Phone generally is. It's hard to bog down Windows Phone in everyday use right here. We've got a good number of games on here. We're going to show you those. That's going to be the place where this really, you're going to have to think about whether you want this or something like the HTC One M8 for Windows, which does cost more. It's $199, but it has a twice as fast CPU inside. And of course, there's always the Icon on Verizon if you can still find it, if you don't mind shopping around to different carriers or importing a 930. Anyway, games on this, a little frame skipping here and there for the most demanding games like Beach Buggy Blitz and also for Asphalt 8. We're going to show you Asphalt 8 so you can see what we mean. So now we're in Asphalt 8 to see how it does with a more demanding game. Obviously, if you're a Plants vs. Zombies kind of person or Bejeweled, no problem. This can handle those kind of games just fine. But this is very demanding. And it's reasonably smooth so far. Sometimes there is a little bit of frame rate drop, and I feel a little bit like I'm playing in slow-mo and it's not responding quite to what I want it to do right away. And once in a while we hear a little bit of audio judder on it, but overall, I mean, this is pretty playable right here. I'd love to be able to blame the phone for the fact that I just hit the fence, but really it wasn't its fault. It's playing pretty smoothly. But occasionally you will see some jitters on this. We don't want to make you watch, 20 minutes of racing to catch it. And honestly, if it happens that infrequently, well, it's pretty darn tolerable. It may not have the all-out performance of the Nokia Lumia 930 or Icon or the HTC One M8 for Windows, but it's managing. It certainly is. So that's Asphalt 8 on the Nokia Lumia 830. As you can see, Windows Phone really has grown up. Again, this is 8.1 right here. All sorts of settings, control of your notifications now, the pull-down shade notifications there, along with your usual toast notifications as well. And the Lumia customizations, which I like. It gives you even more granular control over some things, and we'll get to that. And here are some of the extra things. You can control your glance display. Glance display is you just double tap on the screen when it's laying on your desk, and it'll partially wake up just to show you notifications, the time, things like that. Available there. You've got touch sensitivity, so you can set it to high sensitivity, which is glove compatible mode as well, so nice for the winter there. You've got do not disturb mode, so you can set it to not wake you up at night with all sorts of bings and bongs and blight screens, that sort of thing. And all the usual Windows Phone things there. And there's the quiet hours I was talking about. We've got driving mode as well. Project your screen via wireless. So a mature operating system right now, the story still is with Windows Phone, is the app selection isn't up there with iOS or Android. There's a decent number of applications there. I think you're going to find all the core apps that are there, like the Weather Channel. You've got Facebook, you've got Evernote, all those sort of things, but still, And the game selection is noticeably different. There is some crossover items like, again, Asphalt 8 or Beach Buggy Blitz, but a lot of these are more Microsoft or Xbox-oriented games here rather than the usual fare that you're going to see on iOS or Android. Nokia camera application is deceptively simple. At first, you've got controls here for your flash. And then you tap that and you can see you can control your ISO, your white balance, timer, and you can do switching to video as simply as touching there. Add lenses, the lenses that you can add on the Windows Store for some different effects. You got bracketing right here. Timer mode. Tap to focus. It's pretty quick to take the shot. It's a little bit slow at the saving, as you can see there. It can also shoot 1080p video at 30 frames per second. And for some of the pictures that we've taken, that one is not terribly exciting. Our usual Buddha in the backyard there. Now that's looking very nice with a whole lot of detail there. Slight cool color cast there, but not too bad really. And a lot of detail in the leaves. And honestly, it's quite impressively good. And there, just so you can see the detail in all the leaves and the berries in the foreground right there. Again, very nice, very good. It whited out a little bit on the patio in the back there, but nothing that I would call horrendous by any means. Pool shot, lots of detail. You can see the actual waterfall flowing over here and the detail on the tiles and so on. As you zoom in here, you can see a little bit of interpolation noise right there on the rocks, but overall, again, it's just very nice. And here's a very indoor low light shot of our kitty cat being awfully cute here. And it's very good, especially given how much of him is white in a dark setting right there. You can see actual detail in the fur. And another one there. So yeah, I think one of the selling points for this is definitely the camera. What you get here is the usual Nokia Here, Drive, and Maps. Actually an excellent navigation solution. You've got all the core Windows apps. You've got IE Mobile, for example, right there. You've got contacts with social networking integration, which is all very good and enjoyable stuff. The mobile version of Office. And Microsoft also does health services. In fact, if you get one of these from Microsoft Store, they're throwing in a free Fitbit Flex as well for you health types. Since this is an AT&T phone, they just can't resist it. They just throw in some blow-air like they usually. Yellow Pages Mobile, AT&T Navigator. With Windows Phone, you can delete those if you don't want them. I don't just mean delete the shortcut. You can whack the app completely. So there's good news there. And if you happen to like it, well, it's there and it's available to you, including AT&T mobile TV services. You've got your usual Xbox games there. Now, it doesn't mean you actually can play an Xbox One game on this. It's just the branding there that they use for the games. But you can check on things like your avatar and all that sort of stuff, too. The Music and Video Hub are available, and they're pretty pleasant. We've shown you enough of before on Windows phones, so we're not going to do that again now. And we'll check out the web browser right here. And so you can see the on-screen keyboard. It's a good keyboard. I like actually the sounds that it makes. I like the spacing and responsiveness of the keys. It seems to have very good error correction in general. And there we go. That's how it renders a web page. We're doing this over Wi-Fi right now, but AT&T's LTE coverage is excellent in our area, and Nokia phones are always superb there. By the way, voice quality also really excellent on this. So that's quick and responsive enough. It works well enough. Can play HTML5 video on this. Sorry, Adobe Flash Player, not so much anymore, but that's really gone the way of the angels now with phones. And in case you haven't noticed, we have dedicated capacitive buttons here on the phone, Microsoft style. Battery life on the phone, well, the Snapdragon 400 CPU is not exactly a killer demanding CPU, and this is just a 720p IPS display on this, so easily an all-day phone, unless you're spending your entire day in Asphalt 8 or you're incredibly lost on a 500-mile road trip and using the GPS, that is. Other than that, definitely a full-day phone. So that's the Nokia Lumia 830, available on AT&T. And if you're looking for a Windows phone and you don't want to spend top dollar on something like the HTC One M8, metal ain't your deal. You know you like Nokia's way of handling things. And honestly, since Microsoft now owns the business, and soon these devices will be called Microsoft Mobile Lumia devices, you know you're going to be getting updates attentively, if not on the quick side. It's a nice phone. It has a high-end feel for the mid-range kind of price. And again, if you're into Windows Phone, I'd say go for it, especially if you like the camera. Now, if you're really open to all sorts of operating systems, the decision gets pretty tough there because there are an awful lot of $99 phones right now at AT&T that really put up a good fight, including the LG G2 if you're looking for a very capable camera. So that's the Lumia 830. It's got the Cyclops eye on the back, and well, it certainly doesn't have the Lumia 1020's camera, but it's a pretty darn good camera for the price. It's probably going to be one of the selling points for most folks for this phone. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to visit our website for the full written review, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.